This is Building a Creative Life. I'm Pam Vale, a New England artist, bringing the world of creativity to your door through casual conversations with artists, creators, and everyday people, helping curious, midlife women begin their next creative chapter. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Hello, creative friends. Welcome back to Building a Creative Life. I'm so glad you're here because today's guest is truly a bright spirit and a powerful creative voice. Urmila Menon is a visual storyteller, educator, writer, and creativity coach based in Hong Kong. She's the founder of the Creative Wellness Project, and her work blends art, education, mental health, and advocacy in ways that are as thoughtful as they are inspiring. In this episode, we talk about everything from her personal creative journey to how she uses journaling and workshops as tools for emotional wellness and growth. Urmila shares beautiful insights on navigating life's transitions, building parallel plans during career shifts, and the importance of creative community, especially for those who don't always identify as artists. Make sure you stay tuned until the end. I'll be sharing some reflections that you can take with you and apply to your own creative path. Welcome to the show. I'm very happy to have you here, and I can't wait to talk to you about something that we're both very passionate about. I think we share a lot of common beliefs, and I'm happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Pam. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you and be on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I have some things that I want to talk to you about and some questions, but I would love it if you could maybe give us a little history of what you do and a little bit about you to put things in context.
For sure. So I'm Urmila. I'm an educator, writer, artist, and a creativity coach based in Hong Kong. So for the past decade, I've been in the education and training industry, and I have empowered people to use language and creativity to express themselves better. The settings have changed. Sometimes it's the classroom, sometimes it's a corporate training room, or sometimes it's my creative wellness workshop. But the theme has always been similar, helping people express through different mediums of expression.
And before you did that, what sort of led you to believe that creativity was important in people's lives? Was it something personal?
So actually the thing is I've always been, so I started in the corporate. So if you see my first post-graduation, it's in tech. And I was working in tech, and I was the first 1.5 years I figured out tech is not for me. Okay, like I'm not cut out for the cubicle life. So from there, I forayed into training because in corporates, I was doing tech trainings. Mm-hmm. So from tech, I switched to brand trainings. And then I was like, I do enjoy talking. Like I've always been into public speaking ever since I could speak, like probably from my kindergarten days, So I was like, okay, so I like interacting with people. I like talking. And that's what really naturally led me into training. From training, I moved on to education industry. I taught in universities. And the reason why I made this kind of a tiny shift was because I wanted to keep room for my creativity always. Because I knew I couldn't be doing just one 9 to 5 and call it a day. I've always had a creative side thing, a side gig, a side hustle, a side something, always, Yeah. So I knew I need to have the bandwidth for it. Like I can't really just be contributing to one organization and be done. So I knew that always about me, like ever since I started working. So that's the reason this pivot has happened. And it's just taken different forms, different scales. Like sometimes the percentage is different, but I'm never 100% in like one thing. It's always 90-10 or 80-20. So it's always been that way. And the question that you asked me, like, when did I realize that creativity is important, is probably when, now that I look back at my life, I think creativity was not just something that I saw on paper, but it's honestly like a survival skill for me. Because the way I say it as survival skill and more than a talent is because now that I look back at my childhood, it was something that helped me survive my childhood. I didn't really have the most pleasant experience growing up. So I used to eat comics, draw comics, devour comics, not because it was only like a visual way it's attractive, but as a way to escape the current situation I was in. So when things would get really unpleasant, I would, kind of try to imagine, like you're a kid, what are you going to do, right? So I would try to imagine that what's happening around me is not my reality, and like that comic world is my reality. So it was like a survival mechanism, like an escape from the reality. And that stayed with me. So it's always been like creativity has been like this, how do I say, like the safety net, this little lifeboat always waiting for me. Either it's helping me survive through a dark patch or it's helping me take big leaps that I couldn't think I could take. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's,
And
and now that I take account, it's like,
I feel like people don't realize that. I feel like people sort of take the topic of creativity very lightly. Like it's sort of this
yeah,
fun thing you do on the side, or kind of frivolous,
right,
or if you have
yeah,
time,
yeah,
or maybe it's just for artists. And I feel
yep,
like sometimes they don't appreciate the healing
yeah,
or the safe harbor that it can be for a child, especially when you don't have
yeah.
access to other
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree. Yeah. It's actually sad in a way that it's actually sad that people don't really realize it. And I think that's what makes it even more important to get this awareness out there, to make creativity as accessible. Let things try and actually let them realize how much it can help them, not just to like create something pretty, but actually help them express, document their life a little more intentionally. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like using creativity as a life skill, not just where art's concerned, not just creativity as far as like being an
Yeah.
artist or making something, having that
Yeah.
importance of it being a life skill and being something that everybody should have access to. I know that
Yeah.
you
Agree.
teach now. I mean, you have courses and workshops, and you support people
Yeah.
in this topic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think so I'm a qualified and registered teacher for English, okay? And it's like a conscious decision not to teach art in schools because of how it's taught in schools, like how systemically, how do I say, it's like a creativity killer, if I would
Yeah.
say it, bluntly. So I don't want to be that teacher who ruins creativity for a child. So I choose consciously never to teach art in schools. I've always been an English teacher, always related to communication, business communication, those topics, but never ever art. When I do teach art, I do it on my like on my level, like it's my workshops that so I never work for an organization to teach art because I don't like the output oriented thinking that they have. So with these workshops that I host, it started actually from my personal experience. So 2024, last year was, I think, a very, very toxic period of my life. It was like I was doing a very toxic 9 to 5, a teaching job, and I was doing my second postgraduate degree in education. So it was like toxic environment, 9 to 5, and then come back and do these intense assignments. I think I was like, I'm going to lose it. Like I had stretched myself way thin, and I was like, this is not sustainable. And at that time, I had gotten introduced to something called as creative journaling. And I was like, I still remember I would finish my work day, go to the uni, come back, do my assignments, and then sit a little late at night and actually make a journal spread. So when the thing that you choose to do when you're tired, when you're like just at the end of the day, that shows that that's something important to you because I wasn't posting it anyway. I wasn't showing it to anywhere. It was just for me to like dial down a little bit. And when I used to do something tactile with my hands, I could realize that I couldn't hear the chatter and the noise in my head. And that's very rare. So I was like, if it can help someone as anxious as me, it can definitely help many others. So I started my Substack in Feb 2024, and I used to write a lot about this creative wellness. And I would feature stories from the community and all of that. And then that led to creative journaling workshops in person. And I could actually see how much people realize that, wow, like creativity is just not about drawing or making a pretty picture. when I'm doing this, when I'm engaging in this activity with my hands, it can actually make you feel calmer. It's not really a replacement for therapy, but it's a great way to regulate your emotions on a regular basis. So that was on. And then, creativity comes in waves, right? Like sometimes you feel creative, sometimes you don't. And I was hosting a lot of workshops and I was pouring a lot without filling my cup. So I was just not having it in December 2024. I was like, you know what? It's getting a bit too much. I feel I'm losing my creativity. So Jan this year, 2025, I decided I'm not going to be creating anything. I'm going to be just focusing on my book because I wanted to finish my book. It's been on. You know how books are, right? Like they're always on the back burner. Like after you finish everything in the world okay, fine, now I'm going to work on my book. So this 2025, I decided that this year I'm going to work only on my book. And I think 2 days prior to my trip across Thailand in April this year, I got introduced to something called as illustrated journaling or sketchnoting. So I decided, okay, you know what? What the heck? It's going to be a very low pressure thing. I'm just going to be documenting my trip across Thailand for whatever days we were going to be there. And I was like, I'm not going to be posting it. It's just going to be in my sketchbook, and that's about it. And I have been an urban sketcher for 9 years. Urban sketching, for those of you who don't know, is basically you go to a location and sketch live. Basically, you document your life as it goes. Like, for example, you go have coffee, sketch your coffee or maybe the cafe around you. So it's basically live sketching. And it's like an international organization, and I've been, a part of different chapters and stuff like that. But it's also very expectant. Like there are techniques, there are methods to follow, there are outcomes expected kind of a thing. So that kind of killed it for me. So this year I decided, okay, I'm just going to do this illustrated journaling and let's see how it goes. I started doing it and I started really enjoying it. Like when I was like, we would finish a whole day of roaming across Thailand, come back, and I would sit and just document how the day was in my journal. And I started writing about it in Substack.
Yeah, what was the difference between the other more structured version and this version if they were both journaling or both sketching and documenting?
Yeah,
Like for people that
yeah,
might want to try this that have never really done something like this, could you explain a little bit of the
yep.
difference?
Yes, because the difference is what is going to make you do it. So
Mhm.
urban sketching is like it how do I say it is very close to reality. So if there is a difference between your visual language, you might get a little frustrated that you can't capture what you see as it is, or maybe more lifelike, or you're not able to simplify it. It can get a little frustrating because I have experienced it. And the thing is, since it's done so widely, you have a lot of comparison out there. You have amazing sketchers who can make lifelike, realistic sketches of like these famous monuments or people or whatever. And then you start to like start comparing. And while comparing is a personal thing, but there are also a lot of techniques involved. Whereas when it comes to illustrated journaling, it's very personal. Like it depends on whether you can have a spread where you write more and just doodle a little bit. Or perhaps you like, if you're a more visual person, you can doodle more and write probably a little bit. So it's super flexible. It's very personal to your existing skill set, which makes it very accessible. Like tomorrow, anybody, like even whoever, my friend can come and get up and just give it a go and be happy with the outcome because it's like you can do as much as you want to. It's not that it has to look in a particular way. It doesn't have to have the symmetry lines meeting. You don't have to get the foreshortening correct. You don't have to get the shadows correct. It can be where you are. And I think that's the beauty of illustrated journaling because I documented my entire trip of 15 days in through my sketchbook. And I started sharing about this on Substack because I think it was a very welcome journey back to my own creativity. It wasn't with the intent of telling people that, hey, you should do this. It was more like I really enjoyed it. And I think the readers really enjoyed it too because they started asking, could you teach us how to do this? And I'm like, wow, this was not part of the plan. Like, I wasn't really planning on teaching this because this comes very intuitively to me. So I was like, wow, like, I don't know if I can teach you to do this because this is something which comes with, a lot of noticing, or maybe, I don't know, it just came very intuitively. So for me, when they kept asking, so then I started giving these kind of handouts with my articles that they could try to draw. But then there were a lot of requests coming in, like, how about a virtual session? How about we do this? So I was like, wow, now this is too much of an ask to actually deny or like, probably it's my imposter syndrome holding me back. Like, I have to design the course from scratch. I have to teach someone something that comes intuitively to me. So maybe this is just me chickening out. And you know what, Pam? I was like, we are gonna do this. I put out the poster for my illustrated journaling. I This was a virtual session because a lot of readers are from all around the world, right? So figuring out a time was quite a dance. So I picked up a time, I picked up a date, I just put out the poster, and 20 people signed up. And these people are from all around the world, from UK, Slovenia, Amsterdam, Hong Kong, India. I was like, wow, that was unexpected. So that was, I think, 4 Fridays back. That was the first round, and it became this really beautiful community that is supportive of each other. Like, if you were to come to one of the sessions, the banter they share, the camaraderie that they have, the way they support each other, and also the way they realize that a lot of them came with things like, oh, I used to draw when I was a kid, but I stopped drawing after that. From that to actually making a spread. So last Friday was the last class of the first batch. You won't believe, Pam. I think I've been a teacher for a decade. I think that was the most satisfying experience I've had.
It's the
To
best.
see people actually discover their creativity at their level and be content with what they see on paper. And for me to see that they are able to document their lives so intentionally, which is the whole purpose of doing this, I think it was a very fulfilling and, like, sometimes okay, that is my north because of the way it makes you feel and the way it, has helped many people. So yeah, that's the
Absolutely.
long story of
Well, and I also
how it
feel
came about.
like doing that for people, you don't know the ripple effect of that too, right? Like where that confidence or that little spark of like belief in themselves that maybe was like squashed at some point in their life,
Yeah, yeah,
what that's gonna
yeah,
filter into, whether it's gonna like filter
yeah,
down to their children or into their work or just into their life. I mean, that
yeah,
I find that that's such
yeah.
a gift. I used to teach decorative painting, and I
Oh,
can't imagine like not seeing that light come on in somebody, or where they
yeah,
think they're not creative,
yeah.
or they think they can't. I can't. I wish I had a dime for every time someone said I can't draw a straight line or I can't draw a stick figure, or
Same.
and then you just light them up, and then you change their
Yeah,
life, and
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
really wonderful. I know that it's very important to you to empower others through
yeah,
creativity and through your
yeah,
workshops.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you spoke a little bit about your book. I know that. How is that going? And what was that process
Oh my
like?
God, Pam, you're keeping me accountable. Okay, so the book writing started in Feb. I finished the first round of the manuscript, I think, I'm so ashamed to say this, a month back. But then life has just taken a totally different turn. Like, now these workshops are a little consuming because I had to design everything from scratch. Not complaining, but yes, the manuscript is done. The final editing has to be, done again because, of course, when you feel that it's done, that means it's not done. So I have to revisit it, and of course, I will be visiting it with fresh eyes because it's been a month since I've looked at the manuscript. So it's going to be a very fresh set of eyes. And then, yes, I hope to get this out at least in this coming 2 months. And yes, it needs to be out in the world and free from my computer and free from my this thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a book on creativity, identity, and representation,
Mm-hmm.
three themes that I hold very closely,
Mm-hmm.
and I think would help many others as well when they read the book.
And
So it's like a creative nonfiction.
that's awesome. And I'm sure that like when the timing is right, it'll be ready and it'll come out, right? Like you have to just kind of go with the
Yes.
flow. And um,
Yeah.
for people, a lot of the women that I speak to are beginners in either
Mm.
exploring their creative path or maybe revisiting something after a long
Yeah.
time, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Are there ways that you help people see their potential, see what their
Mm.
options are? Because a lot of times people don't even know what their options are.
Hmm.
How do you do that, or what
So, for
ideas do you have?
example,
Yeah.
so one is definitely if you have been a little out of touch with your creativity, I think My workshops are a great place to start to see what appeals to you. Because honestly, you need to know your taste. If you don't know what lights your soul on fire, you're still going to feel lost no matter what I say or whatever you say. So the first class that I always host is a session where I indulge them in the art of noticing because I want them to get into the idea of knowing what clicks for them. Like, for example, if I tell them, okay, when you go out today to work, notice whatever catches your eye. So it could be different for what catches my eye. It could be different for what catches your eye. So they need to know what is their taste. From there onwards, we can really explore from what they would want, where their strengths lie, what do they actually feel passionate about. So I do help them work, like I do work with them one on one as well to discover their creative path or their creative options. If they're actually looking to just come back to their creativity for self care, I think these workshops would be a wonderful place to start because I just had someone who documented her entire IVF journey using the creative journaling techniques that we did in our class. And I was almost in tears because she's like, this is the first time I have felt confident enough to actually tell my story in a way that I feel confident sharing about. So I after this I would share that spread with you. She has written her entire she's drawn her journey from when she met her husband to now she actually being in the maternity ward, her entire IVF timeline. And she attended the last class from the maternity ward. Like she's due to be
Wow.
pregnant anytime. You will not believe she was wearing pink scrubs. And she's like, Urmila, I cannot miss the last session because it's our graduation.
Hmm.
And she attended from there. So when you see that kind of commitment, you know that your message is reaching them right. So I think these workshops are a great start for you to know where you're at.
Hmm.
And then from there, we can take it on. Like I definitely do one-on-ones as well for them to know
Hmm.
what are their options. A lot of them want to do a lot of virtual workshops because I think that gives you access to more audience.
Hmm.
It's not very location specific. And of course, you don't have to look for a space and all that things, all
Hmm.
those other problems. So I do help them design their virtual experience if they want to get into that as well, because I have recently done it. So I have ideas on what works and what doesn't work.
Hmm.
So I do love sharing this kind of experience also. So yes,
That's
there's always a start and then we can take it from there.
right. Do you have any, in addition to your sketching, do you have any creative rituals that keep you sane and promote wellness and for yourself?
Um, so the thing is, once you start creating art to post, it's very, very important to create art in your sketchbook because that is just for you.
Hmm.
That's not going to be, and I also prioritize creative play a lot
Mm.
because now what has happened is what was personal to me is now public.
Hmm.
Like people are wanting to learn it. So it's kind of taken away from me, but I'm not complaining because it's a way that it's helping others. But how do I say, I completely pivot and do something totally unrelated to
Like
what
what?
I'm doing. So
Like,
so these days I'm learning how to make my sketchbook using book
oh,
binding.
okay.
So actually sew your book. And I'm terrible at sewing, but it's very diametrically different to what I do. So that's how I keep how do I say, that creative play in me by exploring different mediums, doing something completely unrelated to what I'm getting paid for.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, you cannot sustain your
No.
creativity. You feel like you're pouring from an empty cup. So, creative play is something I recommend for all creatives. If you're doing something creative, please have another creative ritual just for you. It could be, I don't know, it could even be something as unrelated as gardening, getting creative with your garden layout or something. So, just do something completely unrelated to what you're getting monetized for.
Right.
I think that's a creative ritual I always hold very close.
Absolutely. And something that you don't have to show anybody. Nobody has to see it.
Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah, just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, private practice.
Absolutely. So important to do that, right? Because it takes the pressure
Yeah,
off. I mean, everything is
yeah,
so curated, and I feel like our lives are so curated that
yeah.
it can be hard to
You
remember
need
to
to
do that.
play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And play without any consequences or expectations or
yeah,
judgments.
yeah. I think another practice that I would really recommend is when you're scrolling and you actually see different people doing different kinds of creative practices. For example, someone's making a collage or someone's making their own sketchbook. I just save those in a folder called Creative Playtime.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I'm feeling like this is getting too much, I'm getting too spent, I just open that folder. It's ready for me, and I pick any activity from that, and I spend time doing that.
That's such a great idea.
Otherwise, I don't think we can. Yeah, I don't think we can sustain.
Right, and you also won't remember when you need it, right?
Yeah,
Like you think you
exactly.
think you're going to remember some awesome thing you
No,
saw, but you're not going to remember.
no, you got to reduce that friction.
Yes,
Sometimes, like when you like, okay, fine, you know what, I'm going to do something for myself. Then you spend searching, and then you end up doom scrolling, and then it's just downhill from there.
exactly.
So having this ready folder,
Mhm.
I think, is a great way to just get going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know you talked a little bit about your career pivots that you've done.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I know a lot of the women that I speak with are in a midlife stage where they either might be leaving a profession or becoming empty nesters or some kind of change in their life. And are there ways
Yeah.
that you've used art and creative expression to help with those changes? I know you said you had a year that was very difficult, and so the
Hmm.
sketching helped through that. But are there other tips that you can give people to navigate like career changes or life changes?
Yeah. So, how do I say career changes, and especially career quakes, the ones that come from
Mm-hmm.
nowhere, you know? I think I had gone through that in 2024, and it was a really bad time, no lying about it. It was like I was like, oh my God, my identity is gonna be taken away from me. But I've also been someone who has always been a very plan A, plan B, plan C, all three running parallelly kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I've never stuck to one thing and put all my eggs in one basket. That's always been me. I've always been a parallel nester, like I put eggs in different baskets. So if one thing falls off, I know it was a huge chunk. It was where most of my eggs were, but I can do with one or two eggs till I find that bigger thing. So I think for women specifically, if they are having these kind of pivots, I think having multiple things going for you, it could be small scale. It could be like I don't know, you wanting to get people together and do something that creatively interests you, or probably like forming a hobby group. Just start doing something which can keep your mind off from all the overthinking. And honestly, never ever put everything in one person, one job, any one thing. So you're putting too much pressure on it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if I notice with my career quake, like, okay, that hit me, but then I pivoted into creative workshops and creative journaling and hosting these workshops. And then I had bigger problems to worry, like the rent and the rent of the venue or procuring the materials. So you're kind of channelizing that excess energy into other areas. So always have parallel plans is my tip for anyone who is going through pivots. Yeah. Or find that plan or find like-minded people who are doing those things and probably join forces there. So yeah, that's something I would recommend.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Are there any other things that you would like to add that we didn't talk about, or any other tools that you offer that people can be aware of? I will put all your contact information in the show notes as well so people can find you.
Right.
But I'd love to know if there's
Yeah,
anything else.
I think I mean, you were great. You covered almost everything that we had to speak. I just want to extend a very warm invitation for anyone who wants to try my illustrated journaling workshops. The second round is starting tomorrow,
Oh, okay.
Friday. The first workshop is free. The reason I do that is because I want people to have a taste of it, so then they can see for themselves if it's a good fit for them, or am I a good fit for you or not, and likewise. So the first session is starting tomorrow, and then it's going to be the next 3 Fridays. We're going to be creating magic together. So I would love for your viewers to also have a think and see if they want to join this supportive community. I think over 4 weeks, we're a supportive community of about 31 plus people, and everyone is like it's a nice community to be in. I think creativity thrives in a community in collaboration. So yeah, I just want to extend a warm invite. Otherwise, we've all covered everything else.
Thank you. And I love that you're aware that you might not be the teacher for everybody, right? And that it's such a kind and generous way to let people
Yeah.
figure out what's right for them, because
Yeah.
not everybody fits with everybody, but it's great.
Exactly.
It's
And
low
I don't want to be
pressure.
like, oops, I paid for this. Yeah, just come, see for yourself. If we're cut out for each other, if you're meant to be, we'll be.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to staying in contact, and
Yeah.
I'm really happy that we got to meet. I'm really grateful for Substack and the internet and how small the world is now.
Riverside.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you so much.
We managed it. Thank you so much for having me, Pam. It was an absolute delight speaking to you. I love your podcast. I
Thank
love the
you.
production that you're doing. I told you from day one that you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you so
And
much.
whenever I see you doubting it, I have to comment and let you know that, Pam, you're doing a fab job. I
Thanks.
have been impressed by the production of your podcast. Keep going.
Thank you so much. I like hearing that. Thank you. As we wrap up today's fun conversation, I just want to take a moment to reflect on what Urmila shared with such generosity and clarity. What really stood out to me is her reminder that creativity isn't a luxury, it's a survival skill. In a world that often prioritizes productivity and performance, her work invites us to slow down, reflect, and connect through storytelling, journaling, community, and play. I love how she spoke about the importance of having creative spaces that aren't tied to an outcome. That kind of space can be such a relief, especially for those who carry perfectionism or old stories about not being creative enough. It's a gentle reminder that creativity isn't about being good, it's about being present. And I also want to highlight her honesty around navigating career shifts and the idea of parallel plans. That's such a helpful and grounded way to approach change, giving yourself room to experiment and grow without throwing everything away at once. If you're someone who's in a life transition or who's been quietly craving more connection, more color, more expression, let this be your nudge. Start where you are. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. Whether it's grabbing a pen and writing for 5 minutes, signing up for a local workshop, or simply noticing something beautiful in your day, those tiny acts matter. They're how we build a creative life that nourishes us. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Urmila for reminding us that art and wellness belongs to everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe for free and share it with a friend. It helps others find the show and grows our community. Remember, creativity is yours to define, there are no rules, and it's never too late. Until next time.